Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name's Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Today I've got a viewer email that came in. Again, I'm still working on messages and emails that are old. So if you send me something, you can put advice into the subject matter, and the link is on my About page. It says for business, but references only, but YouTube puts that there. If you want to email me, you can email me there. I may or may not get back to you ever because I get a ton of them. But this is a female email that came in, and she says, my boyfriend, I'm not sure what's going on. Can you help me? And I say, yeah. And I think it boils down to why do men love differently than women? And women want men to love them like women do, and men want women to love them like their mother does. And I mean in like an all-encompassing, I will always love you, I'll always be there for you. And that's not how it works. But we've talked about how women love men for what they provide, and that they're charismatic and they're strong and they're attractive and they're assertive and they're dominant and they're masculine. And we've gone on and on and on about that. But I thought, I know it's only a small percentage of women out there, but I think this is good for you guys to understand when maybe your girlfriend's giving you crap, or maybe why she's unhappy with you or not understanding you, and why a lot of times things in society seem to be so skewed against men, because a lot of women just do not understand how men think, like not effeminate, weak men, but how like strong men. And I feel I'm pretty accurate on this because my uncle, my grandfather, my father, all very strong men, all had wives their entire lives, and they did perfectly fine. And if you asked my aunt, my grandmother, my mother, they probably always said, oh, we want him to be more romantic or more in touch with his feelings. But they were also happy for 50, 60 years. And like we know, a lot of times women will say, they'll say what they want, but it's not actually what they want. So before we get too far into it, remember, we are in first place right now on the leaderboard on Jeremy's Razors. This is where if you support myself, either through a purchase of Jeremy's Razors or a Daily Wire subscription, we get some points. And he with the most points at the end of, by November 1st, wins. And I would like to use that money for a men's retreat. You can support Gina Carano, Jordan Peterson, the rest of the cast and crew over at Daily Wire, and myself, if you would follow the links down below and check it out. Every order matters. I notice every 10 and 20 point I get, we're not like in the tens and thousands here. We're muddling along, but we do have some good competition. So I'd like to keep that up. So please consider supporting that today, because every point does matter. All right, so let's read down through this. I'm going to read this straight through first to begin with, and then I'm going to come back and touch on some points. She says, hi there. I've been watching your videos for over 2 years and wanted to thank you for all the good content you post. I discovered you through my current boyfriend. He's a great guy. We've been together over 3 years now. Yesterday, he asked for a break, which I agreed to because I understand he needs his space. I was wondering if you have any advice on how I should manage the situation, as I love him and don't want to push him away. His reasons were, number one, he's a lot more mature than I am. I'm 28 years old and he is 37 years old. And he sees me as a girl, not a woman, because I do not control my emotions. He cannot offer me what he thinks I need because he wants no children. Already he has one and the experience was horrible. I knew this from the beginning and I agreed to no kids, never brought it up or pressured him in any way. Number three, he says he does not love me in the same way I do. I really hope that you have some advice for me because I don't know what to do. All right, well, let's go down through this. We'll take it point by point. And there's some little giveaways in here that I hear, and maybe it's just your wording, but we'll talk about that. So your current boyfriend introduced you to my channel, which means, hey, I want you to know, here's the stuff I'm listening to. I agree with some of what this guy says. So just understand that's the place I'm coming from, which I think is fine. And you said you've been together for 3 years. And, all of a sudden after 3 years, he says he needs a break. And you say, let's see, he's a lot more mature than I am. I'm 28 years old and he is 37-year-old and sees me as a girl, not a woman, because I do not control my emotions. Okay, let's put a pin in that first. First of all, it doesn't mean that he's a lot more mature. It just means he's a lot less emotional than you are. This is common between men and women, especially if you are dating a guy especially if you're dating a guy that has a level head on his shoulders. He's more analytical, he's more logical, and he's less emotional. Guys, guys, especially if they've dated or they're maybe a little bit older and they've been through the school of hard knocks, they understand that an emotional man is a scary man. And what I mean by that is that if you see a man reacting emotionally, those emotions usually come out as violent, chaotic, angry, out of control. Even if he's like sobbing and crying, that can make a lot of people uncomfortable. And so guys, and understand, a lot of times women will say that men are bottling up their emotions. No, we've just understood how to work our way through them so that a situation may not become emotional. Like, and it's very hard to explain, but it's kind of like understanding that that if you fight it too much, it's going to be harder. Sometimes you just have to accept the situation the way it is, work your way through it. And then once a guy's done this a few times, he says, hey, you know what? This is no reason I need to freak out, or I'm not going to get all upset, or whatever. I know kind of what happens at the end of this. So that allows him to keep a good head on his shoulders. Women, a lot of times, because a woman can either ask for help, or she has other emotional support, or she has more friends, or people are more responsive to a woman in distress, many times women actually will act emotional because they know they'll get the help they need. They don't have to work through the issue all the way. It's not to say that women don't work through it, but a lot of times it comes with more emotion. The other thing, too, is that women by default, I think, are more emotional beings. That's why they do so well with kids and can relate to kids and or other people so well. It's why they go into nursing. It's why they become teachers. It's why they become many occupations that deal with people. Where men oftentimes, when they hit something that they need to work through, it's like, please leave me alone. I need a little time without distractions, without anything going on, so I can try to work my way through that. So understand that. And I think maybe he does see you as a girl, and maybe he's struggling with you, especially if you get unreasonably emotional over something that he considers is a nothing burger. That can be very wearing on a guy. Some guys have the ability to understand that and work through it okay. Other guys don't. It just depends on his feelings on the matter. You say he cannot offer me what he thinks I need because he wants no kids. I knew this from the beginning and agreed to no kids, never brought it up or pressured him in any way. Maybe you didn't, and maybe this is not even on his radar. But also, a lot of times, women will agree to, I'm fine with no kids, I'm fine with no marriage, and then a little ways into the relationship, maybe he's getting those vibes from you. Either you say, oh, my friend Becky's so lucky, she got married last week, it was a beautiful wedding. Oh, boy, that's awesome. And even though you don't say that's something I want, he may be getting that vibe from you. Or if you are starting to make comments about having kids and not, again, not even necessarily to him. I just mean maybe you're making comments about kids in general. Like, oh, kids are so cute when they're at that age. And, oh, I just love the smell of babies. And like guys get that spider sense tingle going on, and they're like, something's going on here. Like, I think she may eventually want kids, and I want to be careful here. I don't want to wrangle you into something you're going to regret later on in life. And you say, number 3, he says he does not love me in the same way I do. Well, that's true. If a man loves with his heart, and I mean like all on emotion, like, baby, I would die for you. I'll do anything for you. I'll help you through thick and thin. There's only a very, very, very small percentage of women that appreciate that and that can handle that. Most of the time, women will say, hey, you know what? If he loves me that much, it's obvious I'm the best he'll ever have. And that makes me think I can do better. And it's not even in the front of your head. It's a lizard brain whisper back here in the back of your head. Number 2 is that, and I can speak to this in my own life as well because of my family and everything. You know, my father, my uncle, my grandfather, none of these guys, I never saw them get weepy. I never saw them, read a poem to my mom or write they don't write love letters. Like, my dad would get a card and he'd sign it. He'd buy her flowers. But even when my mom, they're 65, well, my father just recently passed, but even when she was 75 and he was 85, and she'd go up and give him a big hug as they're standing in the kitchen after dinner or something or other, she'd just walk up, give him a big hug, and she says, "I really love you." And he was like, "Oh yeah." And he kind of did a rub pat on her back, and he's like, I love you too. But you could almost feel he was a little uncomfortable with that. Now that's one extreme. And then on the other extreme, you've got a guy that will write love letters and poems and cry when the sun sets, and, you know, I don't know, likes to take pictures of puppies. Like, guys are a gambit of emotional response to women in life. But which would you rather have? You're obviously attracted to him for a reason. He's been your boyfriend. You know, if you want to be with him, understand what kind of guy he is, and you're not going to change him. He's not going to wake up one day and be this weepy romantic guy that writes you love letters and confesses his feelings and poetry and that kind of stuff. And I know I'm going over the top with that, but, you know, to a lot of us guys, that's what it feels like. When a woman says, "Hey, do you care about me?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I care about you. I'm happy. I'm glad we're together." And you're expecting this wilting, you know, Romeo and Juliet or some Disney movie. It's just not going to happen for a lot of guys, especially the guys that are tuned in that say, "Look, the way I'm going to try to do my best for you is I'm going to provide. I'm going to try to make your life comfortable. I'm going to make you happy. I'm not going to cheat and make you stressed. I'm not going to try to make you jealous. I'm not going to play mind games. I'm going to be the rock of your life. And you always know where I stand and what I'm up to." That's how I am. That's how a lot of guys, I think, are. And then you've, again, got the other extreme where when you're like freaking out because something's gone wrong, he's freaking out twice as bad as you. And you're like, well, he's emotional, sure, but this is a little bit much for me. You know, and there's a rainbow of guys in between. But often, I find at least, the most successful guys, both in life and in career and in their motivation and their drive, they tend to be the rocks. My father, my grandfather, my uncle, all very successful men, not monetarily necessarily, but they were successful in work. They were successful in life. They had a successful family. They had good friends because they were the rock. They were the guy that everybody went to when they had a problem. So you have to kind of ask, you know, what is it that you want? And are you trying to change him or trying to push you? Or are you trying to push him into loving you in a different way? You have to accept his love the way he gives it to you. And if he can't, maybe he's not the right guy for you. And the one thing I'll point out, and this, again, this may be a little thing you were thinking, you don't understand it, but you say right here, I discovered you through my current boyfriend. Understand that current boyfriend right there. Why didn't you just say, I discovered you through my boyfriend? Now, maybe this is just like, I get it. You could say, well, I met you from a previous boyfriend or whatever. But if you're thinking of it as your boyfriend, why? I'm just curious why you wouldn't say, I discovered you through my boyfriend. When you say current boyfriend, it makes it sound like you are either you're planning to move on, you think he's planning to move on, and that there may be a different boyfriend in the future. Not saying that's the case, but understand when I hear that, that's the way I hear it. And I've got a dog over here that's complaining to me. If you guys can hear that in the background, I apologize. So take that with a grain of salt. I hope this understands. Just know he is who he is. You're not going to change him. Stop trying to change him. Accept him for who he is or move on. It's okay either way, but that may be why he's taking this break, because maybe he's either feeling that you're not into it or you're not into the way he is and you want him to change, or that eventually you may tap out and move on and he's getting that vibe a little bit and he's pulling away, so that if you say, you know what, you're not the right guy for me, I'm moving on, he'll be like, okay, I get it. And he can move on with his life without feeling like he's been hurt or crushed as well. So I hope that helps. For you guys here on YouTube, make sure to join me on betterbachelor.locals.com. Got lots more I talk about. You're only getting about half a video over here on YouTube. So make sure to jump over there and check it out. And for the rest of us on Locals, let's do some dating profiles.